I welcome you to the podcast of PMO Strategists. This podcast is going to bring you the understanding of business complexities, how to manage with the view of our speaker is our guest, special guest who has very extensive exposure to business management and managing advancements in the present time. So that is the advantage of this podcast to bring you a different viewpoint and different approach and what really the approach was successful in the advancement in the present time. So, with that, let me move on further with the advancements on agenda. I'm going to take you through introduction to PMO strategies, purpose of the Strategy Corner podcast, insightful views and experience of the speaker, and guidance for the advancements. And then finally, what PMO strategies helps to the business industries. Here, the podcast purpose is essentially to bring you expert views and insightful knowledge for advancement in the present time and what needs to take care of for moving to the next level of performance. That's the basic purpose of this podcast, and especially for the business managers and the professionals. Because in the case of professionals, they need to upskill and reskill, and what upskill and reskill needs to be managed. So that needs to be understood. And businesses, of course, needs to have a second opinion, whatever they are doing and how they are doing. If they get a second opinion, what is another way of doing business in a best manner, that is again brings value. So that is the basic purpose. Here is the introduction of M. Aslam Mirza, who is me, and I am the CEO and founder of PMO Strategies. My professional exposure includes construction management. Basically, I'm civil construction engineer, and then I moved to managing projects across the industries and helping businesses to move on. And my insightful learning and insightful knowledge has been captured in my 4 books. And those books are written under the theme of aura. Aura is AURA, and that is distinctive atmosphere of energy surrounding a person or a team. And these 4 books capture that knowledge which is necessary for a person or a team to reach to that level where they can help the businesses to move on in the personal level and at the business level. And this aura is R goes for applying project management principles for organizational transformation. U goes for understanding human factors and workplace environment. R goes for respecting diversity, building team, meaningfulness, and growing to leadership. R again, that is agility in project management and collaboration. So having this knowledge, any person or any team collectively can help themselves and the businesses to move in the required direction. Here is the learned speaker who is with me right now, Marek. He is very extensively knowledgeable and experienced in business management, and he is working presently in Austin with a company. And I may not be able to bring his complete bio and introduction to you. I will request Marek to please share his knowledge and experience, what he's going to talk about, and then I will discuss about the business complexities. Marek, please.
Well, good morning. Thank you. I appreciate the feedback and I appreciate the very warm welcome. I don't know whether I would call myself an expert or somebody that's got extensive expert knowledge on it. I am and have always seen myself as a humane sort of a leader. So my knowledge and my experience really lies over the at least 2.5 decades. You know, I have been fortunate enough to work for or with some of the largest organizations and have been I've lived in at least 3 different continents, and I have worked across 5 different continents. And what I think I bring is ultimately that knowledge of leadership, which is based on hands-on experience of diversity, challenges, exposures in different areas, including the evolution of technology, right? I have grown teams from 0 to 5 million, but at the same time, I have managed revenue in excess of millions and close to $1 billion. So that's maybe on the work side. The other thing that as I moved from different continent to different continent, one of the things that I found was I needed a framework that would allow me to not only pass on the knowledge that I had, but also to make sure that that knowledge gets left behind and gets ultimately practiced. So that's where I created the team leadership framework, which I'll talk about in a little bit more detail. I love cycling, as you can most probably see in the bottom here. I do believe that a healthy mind and healthy body brings a healthy work environment. So I think that's me in a nutshell.
Thank you very much, Marek. Very well said. And that's very encouraging. That's right. Because keeping fit is the basic requirement. And of course, that's every professional must do that. And there is no limit on the time, on the age. So you see, no matter what age one may have, if one is keeping fit, he's effective and he's valuable to the world and to the community.
For sure.
Okay, let me move on. And here are the business complexities, which are listed down under external, internal, operational, and strategic arenas. Why I have done it that way? Because external areas are the happenings which are mostly out of the control of a business house and a business company, because those are the happenings which, of course, without their liking, without their knowledge, those are happening, and that brings pressure on the organizations to manage and sustain the pressures with internal arrangements, with internal competence development, and that brings pressure on the operational functions to keep in business and to keep the flow of the business. So these 3 areas finally brings pressure on the strategic advancements, because every business is required to stay in market and stay in the market. So that happens only when the strategy is carried out effectively in a workable manner. And these 3 areas are impacting positively and negatively on strategic advancement and strategic designs. So these 3 areas together are the challenges which businesses are required to manage and to withstand and to change with the requirement. So let's see what our learned speaker and the guest has to share with regard to his experience and insightful learning. Please, Marek, share your experience, please.
Yeah, I think you did have a question specifically to complexities, right?
That's right.
And
let me clarify here. You don't need to touch upon all areas or any specific area. It's all up to you where you feel you have the best exposure and knowledge. Please.
No. And thank you for that. And thank you for that clarification. Look, I think for me, it's a timely question, right? Because complexity is no longer a periodic business challenge. It really is a new operating environment. And what I mean by that is that if you look at today's market and you're navigating through almost a perfect storm, you're looking at hyper competition, you're looking at digital disruption, you're looking at hybrid workforce, people wanting to work from home, evolving customer behavior, there's regulatory shifts, there's the political environment, the economy, and technical, AI being a prime example. So I believe that if you try to tackle these linear traditional models, you will stall and you will struggle. So the way that I look at this and the way that I lead through it is that I don't believe that you need to simplify complexity by avoiding it. You got to lead through the complexity by creating clarity, building resilient teams, and staying ruthless ultimately and focused on the outcomes that you are creating, because the previous environment will never change. So let me maybe break it down into 3 key principles, and I'll bring the team environment into one of those. So for me, as I said, clarity over complexity is essential, right? But it starts with chaos. In chaos, clarity is your biggest advantage, without a shadow of a doubt, right? It's so often you'll see organizations that have stood up and collapsed and restarted and try to re-energize themselves. And for me, with every role, whether it was starting a new service provider sales or whether it was driving cloud adoption, I start with one question, and that is, what does success actually look like? And I don't mean success only in terms of revenue, but also in customer experience, retention, scalability, and ultimately team health, because you've got to look at the team health environment, because those are the people that ultimately, deliver the results going forward. So once we define those questions and those answers, we then build a go-to-market strategy around it. What markets are we serving? What is the friction in the funnel? Which metrics are the most important? And things of that nature make a big difference. If I look at, once again, one of my previous roles where I took revenue from 0 to, let's say, 5 million in a space of 12 months, it's getting laser focused on execution and building the teams that ultimately channel partner maybe model. If you're not going directly and you've got a channel partner model, building the channel model environments to ensure that you ultimately can scale and truly scale. So for me, clarity, once again, is not about perfection, but it does need to be your North Star. And then that clarity ultimately allows people to make timely decisions going forward. So that's the first one. The second one is complexity multiplies when silos form. And we've seen silos being formed across multiple organizations, whether they are small, whether they're medium, whether they're large. And so alignment is crucial, but with silos, that alignment has a massive challenge. And, going back to, I've as I said earlier during the introduction, I've ran teams in EMEA, Americas, and Latin America. No matter what the background, no matter what the culture is, the same holds true. If sales and customer success and marketing are not aligned, your revenue becomes fragile. So this is where my building the shared rhythm comes in, and team, T.E.A.M, is on the heart, is really on the foundations of that, right? And team really stands for T is for talk. And I want to just go back to, maybe before I talk about team, in terms of why and how this came together. For me, team was, as I said earlier on, was really about that alignment, those principles, and making sure that everybody sings from the same hymn sheet, everybody's on the same page, everybody talks to the same thing. And that's extremely important. So T stands for talk. So open communication in a complex environment is not optional. It has to be a growth engine. And when I say talk and communicate, I mean, I'm talking about multiple layers of communication and different types of communication, whether it's technical, whether it's legal, whether it's what, it doesn't really matter, but communication is absolutely essential. The E stands for evaluate, right? So we reflect often, not just on the performance, but on the process, right? So you gotta, as one of my coaches used to say, you've got to inspect what you expect. And that's where being driven by and assisted, being even by AI in this particular case, being numbers driven or being driven by statistics to help you govern those decisions is important. The A stands for action. I mean, because strategy means nothing without execution, in simple terms. So you've got to execute and you've got to action an actionable item, and you learn from those actions. You will have to pivot from time to time. But as I said, sometimes it's better to make a wrong decision than to make a no decision, because you can fix a wrong decision. And then the last one for me is really mentorship. Best leaders are likely already in your team. They just need development. You need to ensure the succession planning and mentorship and development is there, right? So we want to ensure that we empower teams, we take ownership and act on it quickly. The last point out of the three is really agility in execution. And I spoke about this briefly. And I think for me specifically, if I can tie it back to me, this is really where my love of cycling ties into this particular example. Business leadership is like an endurance sport, without a doubt. It's not only about the big sprint. It's about reading the terrain, adjusting your pace, working in sync with the rest of the team, especially when you're climbing and you've got a challenge up ahead of you. So I think, to wrap up my long-winded answer, Mohammed, it's clarity, alignment of the teams, agility in action, and endurance in vision.
Beautiful. Very right. Very pertinent to the present time of challenges. I love that. That's really beautiful. Okay, with this, let me move to the next question. That is, what is your viewpoint on moving to the next level of performance? Your advice for the professionals, for their reskilling, upskilling, and to the business managers?
Sure. It's a great question, by the way. And I might not be a little controversial, but you wouldn't expect any less from me.
Please go ahead.
I think for me, the next level of performance is really less about chasing the big number and more about unlocking capacity, clarity, and culture at scale. Mm-hmm. And in my experience, peak performance doesn't come from pushing harder. It comes from elevating how we think, how we lead, how we align. It's not just about doing more. Yeah, we can all do more. Sometimes busy work is not necessarily the greatest of work, but it's also about doing better. So with purpose, with precision, and people-first leadership, aligning your goals, aligning your vision going forward. I think if I used three examples in the first answer. If I can look at it maybe slightly different here, the first one is you've got to start with performance, and performance starts within, right? Self-leadership. And what I mean by that is, am I modeling clarity, consistency that I speak about, and accountability that I am expecting from others? Because if I'm not doing that, there's a dislocate already. Am I learning faster than the pace of change? And let's be honest, change is inevitable at the moment, and it's happening so quick that it's almost impossible to be continuously on the forefront. So what you've got to do is you've got to be agile enough, which comes back to the first answer, that agility. And high performance sales teams, in my humble opinion and in my experience in terms of what I've done, mirror energy and the mindset of a good leader. So once again, for me, the fitness and the cycling element comes into it, because that does help with mental clarity, emotional discipline, physical wellness, and all of those things. Those things are essential. I think so often we choose to focus on the business aspect of it, but if the engine isn't running at 100% capacity, it's very difficult to pull the rest of the cards behind it. So also, I believe that the next level of teams and next level of team performance also require next level of trust. And I always talk about how essential trust is in any kind of an environment. We want people to rise to a level of pressure that's being exhibited. And in the, dare I say, 100 almost quarters that I've closed, it never changes. The pressure continuously rises. It escalates. It escalates, and it won't change. People try to rise to the level of purpose, not to the level of pressure, and I think that's extremely important. Look, I've inherited teams before in, as I said, in Africa, in EMEA, in LATAM, in America. To hit the growth numbers we needed to do more than execute, right? We needed to transform how we operate as a team. So I guess for me, it's making sure that I look at all of those things. So my viewpoint, if I'm being honest now, I'm moving the next level of performance. It's a holistic journey. It's up-leveling the mindset. It's unlocking the human potential. It's aligning the systems to sustain excellence going faster. And it's about riding further, not faster. So using the cycling analogy again, I think with the right team and with the right culture and fuels, rather than draining the high performance, anything is possible. And then I apply the team framework continuously with the 4 governing principles to ensure that we do rise to the next level of excellence and the next level of performance. Because once those things fall into place, numbers will always follow.
Highly valuable, very highly insightful, valuable insights you have just shared. I love that. Yeah, definitely. It will help the business managers and the professionals to move and to manage their efficacy on job, in community. I love that. Thank you very much for
Oh,
sharing.
pleasure. I am eternally grateful and honored to be able to at least impart and share some of my experiences with you.
Okay, let me move to the next area. That is what PMO strategies brings to the businesses in consulting. It helps diagnostic assessment of gaps in strategy and execution, strategic alignment, and discipline strategy execution. This is what PMO strategies can help ongoing businesses to move on with the required direction and required competence. PMO functions optimization. If companies have got their PMO in-house, it can be managed, its functions can be evaluated, and the performance can be optimized by corrective actions. And if not, then that PMO functions can be provided to a business. Change management and culture transformation, that is the basic requirement in the present time, primarily because change management is needed to move on with the changing requirements of the market and the business and the environmental requirements. Leadership development, mentoring, and coaching. That is the basic requirement for moving with change management and cultural transformation, because without having strong leadership, no organizations can manage their change and can deal with their cultural transformation. So again, this is the basic requirements of every business. That all services can be managed through training services. That the area where PMO strategies can help businesses, or business resilience and adaptability in the team and leadership, because the change taking place in the present time needs teams to have resilience and adaptability for moving with the change. Enhancing communication and collaboration. Again, communication is a basic requirement and the backbone of every business flow. So that needs to be managed, that needs to be organized. Driving innovation and creativity. It is said that the present time is the economy of innovation. So that needs systems and processes place in the organizations for every team level and every level of the team to go with the innovation and creativity. So there, PMO strategies can help the businesses. Developing strategic thinking and problem solving. Again, this is the requirement of the team that every team member must be trained for strategic thinking and problem solving. So that their PMO strategies can help the organizations effectively. With this, thank you very much. And before I close down, let me go back to my learner speaker. If he has got anything additional to share with the prospective participants, Marek, please share that.
Thank you. First of all, thank you very much once again for having me on. I hope I've at least managed to provide a little bit of contribution and a little bit of value to your listeners. I guess to close out on a statement, it's as I said, it's really like cycling for me. It's about riding further, not faster, with the right rhythm, with the right team, and with a culture that fuels and propels really, rather than drains the high performance. So it's better leadership, better energy, and better alignment at scale. And I think that's what gets us to where we want to get ultimately. So once again, I appreciate your time and thank you.
Thank you very much. Nice having you in this podcast. Thank you very much.